Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I think I'm here. I'm Val, but I can't
Hey.
see anybody. I don't know what's going on.
We can see you, Val. So you look great.
I see a frozen screen of Jake's face. That's what I
We can see you.
That's
Okay.
terrifying. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'm just gonna sit here and stare at Jake while I talk to him. I'm gonna screenshot this so that you can see later what I had to go through.
It's horrible. I'm sorry to make you
podcast
suffer
window.
through that. If that's all you can see. Well, I feel bad. We were chatting right before we started the episode, and I thought you were done saying what you were saying, Tracy, and then I just dropped you out. But then you started a whole new sentence. I'm like, yep, I'm a horrible human being. So I'm sorry about that. It wasn't intentional.
You didn't like my joke. It's fine.
No, I did like the Mothra joke. We'll have to post that on our page with the Kong versus Godzilla trailer that came out today.
That
as we're recording this.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The trailer looks pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see the movie.
Two big monsters going at it. Come on. I mean, even if it sucks, it's going to be fun.
I'm a fan.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be good. All right. Well, we are wrapping up Jack Black January, and our movie this week we are talking about is Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle, not the next level. We're not talking about. I mean, that one you can watch that one; it's fine. But the good one, I thought Welcome to the Jungle was better than the sequel to it. But that's what we're talking about. We apologize because we're all kind of in different settings or whatever, but we appreciate everybody being here and listening. So yeah, let's talk about it. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Also, Jake, I wanted to say that also Sundance officially is starting this week, and usually I'm up at Sundance, but they're not doing it in Salt Lake or in Park City this year, in Utah really at all. It's all online. But I did post on our Facebook page the picture of me and Jack Black at Sundance 3 years ago. And his face is everything. Like, he took that picture of us. He took like 7 of them, and just we're running down Main Street as he's just making Jack Black faces, taking all these photos. It was like perfect. It was a perfect moment.
That it's one of my favorite stories that you've shared with us, Val, is meeting Jack Black, because he's one of these celebrities that I've always enjoyed his work, and I would love to meet him in real life someday. And your story just doesn't disappoint at all, because it just seems like the most Jack Black type story, and he just seems like a nice guy, even in person. And I think that's awesome, because a lot of celebrities, especially when they're not making a public appearance, they're just out and people see them out.
Yeah.
I mean, they have private lives and they want to be private, and I get that and I respect that, but he seems like in that particular experience, he was a great guy, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, if he wouldn't have said anything, because it was like 11 o'clock at night in Park City on Main Street on a Sunday, and I'm running down Main Street in a blizzard to get to our RV, or not RV, but our truck that was about to get towed, as we're trying to unload this lounge at Sundance. And I would have never known he was there, but he yelled at me and he's like, "Why are you running?" Like, he's like, "You don't need to run. Everything's going to be there when you get there." And I'm like, "That's Jack Black." So I'm trying not to fall on my face as I'm running down Main Street in the snow, trying to get to the thing. And I don't have my phone on me, because when I do events like that, my assistants have my phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I'm yelling down the street to my friend that's at the truck, and I'm like, "Get your phone! Get your..." Jack Black's like running with me, and I'm like, "No, they're gonna tow our car." But Jack Black, I gotta tell you, like, my daughter is a huge fan. I'm like, I'm a fan, but my daughter is a huge fan, and she's not a fan of anybody's, and I never ask for pictures, but like, you will make me the best mom. Like, this is a moment where my daughter will think I'm cool, right? As parents, we don't get those moments very often where we can be cool for our kids. And my kid is not impressed by much because of like the life that she's gotten to live through radio and stuff. And so my friend throws me his phone, which is a crappy phone. Like, it's not great. And Jack Black grabs it, and we're just like taking selfies, and he's making all these faces, and the pictures are dark and grainy. and lame, but at the same time, it's like totally perfect. And he was so great and so nice. And yeah, it made my total day because like we meet celebrities often, and especially at Sundance, like some of them go up there and they know they're going to get talked to, and some of them don't really want to get noticed, but he was perfect.
If I had a TARDIS, forget like going back to like any historical moment, I would go back and watch Val with Jack Black. Anywhere in time and space, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And I love him, and I love him in Jumanji. I think when we all heard that this movie was being made, we weren't sure if we were going to like it, because obviously the original Jumanji with Robin Williams is a fantastic movie, and we all watched it a bunch. And I was just like, oh, they're redoing Jumanji, and then they announce, that The Rock is going to be in it, and I was like, all right. And then they announced Jack Black's going to be in it, and I was like, okay, they're going like a different route with
this. I gotta say, this is the film that, like, I always knew that The Rock had star chemistry. He has the charisma, he's got the looks, he's got everything. This to me is the movie where he put it all together. I had seen some of his other films and it's like, it was okay. But this one, it was the humor and the charm and he's not afraid to make fun of himself in a lot of ways. And that was really refreshing to see and really cool.
Yeah. And I kind of going back to what you were talking about, Val, with when they announced this movie, I kind of felt like, do we need another Jumanji? I mean, like the Robin Williams movie is a classic and it was fun, but I never felt like, man, we need an updated version of this movie. And again, when they announced the cast, I was like, okay, so they've got some good players in it, but it was kind of a wait and see kind of movie. And I probably enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. Just because I do think that all of them put in great performances between, Chris Hart, Jack Black, Dwayne Johnson, and Karen Gilan. Like they do a great job. And even Nick Jonas, who's in it, does a great job. And I think what I enjoy about it is that what I enjoy about it is that they're playing different characters, right? Because Jack Black is playing a teenage girl. The Rock is playing a skinny, nerdy, asthmatic teenage boy. Chris Hart is playing a teenage boy who is twice the size that he is, and which is not hard to do.
Maybe
I mean, honestly.
times.
Yeah,
3 to
maybe.
4 times.
and Karen Gilan is playing a girl who has a very different feel as far as like how she dresses and looks and stuff. She's not like a popular girl, right?
Right.
And so they're playing these different characters that on screen they don't look like that at all, and it just the way that they play them is just great because there's not really ever a moment where you forget that Jack Black is really a teenage girl in Jack Black's body.
That's exactly right.
And for him to pull that off the way that he does is pretty impressive. And the same thing with The Rock, there's never a point where you forget that this is a nerdy asthmatic kid in his body because he plays that up so much. Like he's afraid of everything. And it's just fun to watch The Rock be scared of something because he's not afraid of anything. I don't think in real life. I would never tell The Rock that he's scared of anything because,
Well, I love the fact too that when I found out that it wasn't going to be a remake of the original, it was a twist on it. I was like, okay, now I'm more interested. Now I'm intrigued as to what you're going to do with it. And I'm with you, Jake. I went in with pretty low expectations. I'm like, okay, The Rock's entertaining, but he's not the greatest actor. I really like Jack Black. I really like Karen Gilan. Kevin Hart's hit or miss for me. So I'll
I keep saying Chris Hart, and it's Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
Oh, embarrassing. You guys should have called me out on it originally, man.
I was just going to send the video to Kevin Hart and let him tell you off.
I'd much rather Kevin Hart tell me off than The Rock, so I'll take it.
I don't know. I think that Kevin Hart's a little spunky guy, and I think
he's going to fight dirty
crap on you. He'd kick your kneecaps out. I love Kevin Hart so much.
I do too.
Well, right now with Jake's hip, with Jake's hip, anybody could take Jake right now.
True.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Let's pile it on.
Even your Apple Watch can beat up on you.
Oh man. I like going back to it being this hits the sweet spot for me because it's not a direct sequel. It's not a continuation of what we saw in Jumanji, but it's also not a remake where we forget about the old movie altogether, because when they find the Nick Jonas character and they've got Robin Williams' character's name on the little hut that he built, and he said, "Oh yeah, this was already here, and that's some guy that lived here for a while." And it was a cool callback to the movie to let you know that this is taking place in that same universe, even though this is a new version of the Jumanji game.
And I like Nick Jonas's character. I was a little worried at first. I like the Jonas Brothers. I watched, their Disney television show and movies when I worked for Disney because my daughter was totally into it. And I think he's a fun guy. And I just think as he's gotten older, he's still only 28 or something like that.
Yeah,
but as he's
really
gotten
young.
older, he's gotten even more fun. I mean, he's a good looking kid, but he's not afraid of being totally stupid. You know what I mean? I think his character in this movie was super fun. I love the land that they created. I love the guy that's their tour guide that's just a part of the computer, the game that, it reminds me a little bit of Jurassic Park. But it's this is your, journey, your adventure.
Welcome to Jumanji.
I love that guy. I love that guy.
Well, and they do a great job because they are sucked into a video game. And if you've played video games before, and I think we've all played enough of them to know, you have these NPC, non-playable characters that you interact with, and they do have these super scripted things that they say. And so it was great that every time they would try to ask him a question that was off script, he always just went right back to the script. And each time one of them interacted with him for the first time, it was "Oh yes, Dr. So-so, welcome to Jumanji. I've heard so much about you," and all this other stuff. And then when they run into the kid in the shop who's giving them the hints on where they can find the missing piece, and that kid is super scripted too. And it was really kind of cool because those were the little reminders that they gave you that they were in a video game, even though it was all real actors, and they so even though they were experiencing everything for real, they did remind you throughout that this is a video game with the way they interacted with people. Even when Karen Gilan goes up to distract the guys with her womanly ways, and it takes them a minute to react to her being there and everything, because she had to get just to the right spot for them to know that she was there, and things like that, where I thought it was really well done, where you felt okay, this is a video game movie.
I think I want to try that in real life once. Just have that conversation, and then somebody tries to get you off task, and then you just repeat it. And then they say something else to get you off task, and then you just repeat it until they give you exactly the answer that you want. I think that might be my new jam.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I like that.
I'm interested to hear how that works out for you,
I'm not going to continue this conversation until you give me the answer that I want.
Yep, I'm interested to hear how that works out for you, in the workplace, with friends. We're just going to kind of stop inviting Val to do things with us. She's kind of... I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's already a thing, but... No, I just think this movie is so fun. It's just, I think that there's been a lot of movies that have tried to be as fun as this movie that have come out before it. What was that Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell? It didn't quite hit the mark for me, but it had the same kind of feeling of what this movie was accomplishing. That one also tried to accomplish, but it was, I don't know, it was missing something. And this movie was that for me. It was enough comedy, enough ridiculousness, enough heart, not just Kevin Hart, but heart in the stories. And then it just enough to bring you in. I think that Zathura was another one that's this movie that did really well for me. I really liked that movie as well. Same kind of concept. you know, where you're kind of in a ridiculous thing. Like, this isn't ever going to really happen in real life. Like, something like this would
Right.
not happen. But they make you feel like it actually could, and you would want it to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Zathura, Jumanji is based on a book. I can't remember the author's and artist's name. He also wrote Zathura, and they
Yeah.
based the movie off of that too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I love about it being based on a book is that it's a children's book. Like, it's a picture book. So it's not like a
Right.
chapter book and so the fact that we've had 3 movies that have been pretty successful based on a children's book is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And they've obviously had to build the world out a little bit. But I love that. Since we are talking about Jack Black this month, like his performance in this movie just
It may be my
cracks me
favorite Jack Black. It might be my favorite Jack Black performance.
when they get to the scene where he has to go to the bathroom, it is just hilarious. He's like, yeah, I was afraid of this, but I kind of need to take a pee. And like asking them to explain it and having The Rock keep saying, yeah, and just make sure you aim. And Kevin Hart, like, what happened to you, man? Like, I don't want to talk about it, but just make sure you aim.
And then he's
even,
like, this is amazing.
oh my gosh, you guys, there is a literal actual penis attached to me right now. And I lost it at that point. When he said that, I was like, oh my God.
The fact that I am not taking selfies right now is amazing.
Yes. And that, like, the whole phone obsession all throughout and everything. And then when he's teaching Karen Gilan how to be flirtatious, like the hair back, biting her lip, like all of that stuff, and to have Jack Black demonstrate all of that, it was just so good, so good, and so much fun. And he's just the right kind of actor for this kind of a role because he's not going to take himself too seriously and he's going to be all in. It's like, all right, so I'm playing a high school teenage girl who's obsessed with taking selfies and obsessed with her self-image. I'm ready. I'm all in. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
And like understanding that, like, if she woke up and saw him in the reflection, that she'd be incredibly disappointed and terrified. Like, it's just great. It's just great.
And I would hate to throw it out there to our friend Craig Price. Like, I would hate to have to recast this movie because they did such a great job at finding people that fit so well that I couldn't imagine a different cast for this film, especially for Jack Black's character. Like, who else out there could be like this genuine? Like, you really believe that there is a teenage girl trapped in that body. Like, there isn't a moment where you think, he slipped or he missed or whatever. He had it, like, from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I hope to never have to recast this one. So
yeah, one of the things that would be so hard is because the chemistry among these actors is so good. Like, you can tell that they are all just having a blast with each other. And I think that would have been a really fun set to be a part of. And when you're casting, you've got to think about not only the character, but how those characters interact with each other. And I think that's what would make that so difficult.
Yeah. And I like that it was the actors playing those characters. And they didn't do anything super cheesy or over the top where they like piped in like the teenage girl's voice or things like that as Jack Black was speaking. And I think that was part of my issue right off the bat with the sequel, because when they do get sucked in, and it's the 2 older guys that are in the characters, they do have them, like, it's Danny DeVito's voice coming out of The Rock. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's where they lost me on that one, because it didn't feel as good. And it didn't let the actors do their job of portraying those characters instead. And I think that it just works better that way.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
yeah. I agree.
How musical of you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to yawn at the same time. So I figured if I sang while I yawned, it wouldn't be so yawny.
That's what Jack Black would do.
See?
Sing while he yawns. Yeah, perfect.
Let's just have a Jack Black doobity doo along.
A doobity doo along. I like it. Skitty scat. Yeah, see, I'm not a good at it.
We are losing our minds.
Yeah.
We're almost through with January, though.
I know. I'm really excited to be through with
January. The first month of 2021. This is good.
Yeah, and we're all still standing, which is a good sign.
I already got my list in. How are you guys doing on your list of favorite movies of your cinematographers? Mine are already on the Google Drive.
I'll do it today.
I won't have mine done today, but I will work on it because I have no idea what I'm going to pick yet. So I'm looking at a couple movies that I enjoy. Go ahead, Tracy.
I had to recast Clue for Craig Price's show that comes out on Tuesday, and that was tough. Recasting Clue was not easy.
Yeah.
And I'm debating a couple of my decisions, so we'll see how it goes.
I think it'll be good. I like a couple of your picks, and I don't want to say anything because and I will point out, in case anybody's listening, that you shared it with us after you sent it to Craig, so there was no influence from anybody. It was all your pick. But there were a couple of your picks that I really, really liked a lot, and I think it's a strong cast.
Well, Jake, you did great last week. You guys are both rocking it. I sucked right out of the gate.
Everybody has a bad game.
My picks were good. They should have won.
Your picks were good. I think
your picks were really good.
I was really surprised with how it went. If you guys haven't watched Cast Off,
he had great picks, and I really like him. It was just tough because we both had really, really good picks, and so you just never know. But sometimes I'm not gonna lie on that show. Some people pick picks that I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. Yep. And if those that are listening, if you haven't seen it, it's called Cast Off, presented by Matinee Heroes. You need to check it out. We've all been contestants on it. Tracy's going to be on this Tuesday night live. Hopefully get into the semifinals. We'll post a link to their YouTube channel on the description for this video, and so you guys can find it. But yeah, it's a fun show. But I agree, Val. Sometimes some of the picks that people come up with, I'm like, so Alex, the guy that I went up against, great guy, super nice. But when he picked Kathy Bates to replace Dolly Parton in Steel Magnolias, I just was not sure about that pick at all. It's like, that one was an interesting one. But
that would have changed the whole movie, I think. The whole feel.
Yeah. I just wondered if he had seen the same movie that I had at that point. But a lot of his picks were really, really good. So it was that game was really close. So I'm interested to see how you do. Tracy's going up against the defending champ this week.
Defending champ, Randy Redacted. Here we go.
Yeah.
So Randy, here's the thing. Randy had not seen Clue. He watched Clue after the announcement on Tuesday and had his picks in Tuesday night. I, of course, rewatched the movie and then spent all week.
Randy's notorious for recasting movies that he hasn't seen at all.
I know. I know. And that's what makes him so scary. So I obsessed all week over my picks, and now I'm obsessing over, I made a mistake. So we'll see.
Yeah, but at this point, they're already in. Yep. So you can't worry about it. You just got to go with it.
It is what it is.
It's always funny because people are like, good luck tonight on the show. And I'm like, well, at this point, there's nothing I can do except say this is who I picked and why. But it doesn't change anything. So.
But speaking of picks, we are going to start doing our top picks for different kind of movies. And this first one that we're going to do next week's, and we need your help with, is we are going to pick 3 movies from one of our favorite cinematographers and talk about them a little bit. Not like get in, but like I like the idea of this because it gives us all a new opportunity to hear about new movies. That we may not have seen before. So if you have a cinematographer that you like, send us 3 of their movies that you like, and maybe we'll have you on the show with us, and maybe we'll talk about your picks.
And if you've got a list that you don't want credit for, send it to me because I have no idea what I'm going to pick yet for my favorite cinematographer. Like I look at movies that I think are beautiful, and then I'm like, okay, but I enjoyed those movies, but what else have they done? And I don't think it would be fair for me to pick like the cinematographer for Lord of the Rings and just pick all 3 Lord of the Rings movies. So
Hey,
I'm branching out.
There are no rules. However, I think you guys will be very surprised about my pick that and that this cinematographer, the 3 movies that I put up are 3 absolutely totally different movies.
I love that. I love that.
And they're not, cinematography is not just about being pretty. There's one
Right.
movie that we're going to talk about that the reason why I love the cinematography is they made one of the most beautiful actresses alive look awful because that's what the story was like with the angles and the lighting and all of that. So it could be just a movie that the cinematography stood out to you. It doesn't necessarily need to be like big scenery like Pride and Prejudice and Lord of the Rings and that kind of stuff. So it can just be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what you guys picked. I will have a list by the time that we're supposed to have a list. So I'm working on it. I promise.
You also have
I'm not thinking about it. I just haven't got there yet. So, and you guys know this about me. What's that? Yeah. Well, and you guys know this about me. I'm much more like, I enjoy movies and you guys have much more of a training and background in it. And so it's probably easier. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it makes it harder if you think about cinematography more from a filmmaker standpoint to pick your favorite. But it's harder for me in the sense that I just don't know who to pick. Directors, sure.
Speaking
Writers,
of cinematographers, we got some Dutch angles going on here with Val.
Yeah, what are we doing? Like, we're spinning around.
All of a sudden, Val's picture starts tilting at Dutch angles.
I don't often have like full control over. Like, I'm so easily entertained. Like, just it's so.
You'll notice I jump right on it. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
I have not gotten a lot of sleep this week, you guys. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yesterday, my computer exploded and I had to get a new laptop. Like, it's just been, it's not like, I was telling Jake before the show, it's not an awful week. It's just one of those nonsense weekends where, like, all these things that you don't have planned happen, but you still have to follow through with all the plans that you had made. Yep. I'm behind and like people are waiting for me to go in and paint. So I'm going to have to go in a minute. But like, yeah, it's just been a weird, it's been an upside down weekend.
So therefore,
there we go. Well, and it's funny. We've spent a lot of time talking about a lot of other stuff besides this movie, and I feel like we tend to do that when it's a movie that we don't necessarily enjoy that much. But I think we all enjoyed this movie.
Yes.
I think we just had other stuff that we were talking about, and there's really not a lot to say about this movie except it's really funny. Jack Black is brilliant in it. The Rock is brilliant in it, and you should just watch it and just enjoy it. Like, it's not going to win any awards. Obviously, it didn't win any awards, but it is.
It won a Kids' Choice Award, I think, actually, or a Nickelodeon or something. It won some funny something.
And I think that is exactly what this deserves, because it isn't like I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you like, oh, you should just turn your brain off and enjoy the movie. But this is one of those movies that you kind of do just have to sit back and just enjoy it for what it is. And if you do that, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you're looking for it to be anything more than that, then you're going to be disappointed on some levels. So
absolutely.
With that, what would you guys grade Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle?
Val,
Tracy,
what would you
start with you. Oh, Val. Okay, we're going to start with Val.
Started with me the last couple of weeks.
All right.
I give this movie a B+. Like, I think it's so much fun. I have watched it more than one time, and I will probably watch it again at some point. Maybe not this year, but like I'll probably just be sitting around and I'll be like, you know what, I just need to laugh tonight and not do a lot of thinking. And I would turn it on. I just love the chemistry between all of the actors. I love how they took a story that we love so much and still made it original. Because it really was an updated version of, what the story means to this generation. So it was so cool. It's just fun. B+.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to go right with Val. I'm going to go B+ as well. Val has a great Jack Black story. I have a pretty decent Karen Gilan story. We had just won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for the FanX Film Contest. And we'd won that the night before, and I had my little statue with me. And we ran into Karen Gilan, and we started just chatting. And she's like, what is this for? And so we told her, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And was just the nicest lady, sat and talked to us for like 5 minutes, took a couple selfies with us. And her friend, Ben Schwartz, was there that Jake knows as Gene Raffio from Parks and Rec. And he was there as well. And so he comes walking up. He's like, hey, I want to get in some of these pictures with this statue. We're like, all right, come on in. And so we got some pictures with him too. So she was a total sweetheart. But I love the chemistry in this film. I love how the actors play off of one another. This is probably my favorite Jack Black performance. It just, like Jake said earlier, it hits all the feels. Val mentioned there's a ton of heart in this film, not just Kevin. It's really, really good. The sequel was okay.
A little heart.
The thing that I liked about this so much is it was so original and different. And it took me in unexpected places. So I really quite enjoyed that. And I'm going to go solid B+ on this one.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I would put it in the B+ category too. And I think the biggest reason why is because I could sit and watch this again and I would enjoy it. And I could probably watch it multiple times and still really enjoy it. And it's one that you could start quoting and go back to again and again. But because of the type of movie that it is, I'd have a hard time putting it in an A category just because that's like rarefied air. And I don't think that it belongs there. So I think B+ is the right spot for it.
It's not a classic comedy, but it is a fun little romp. Yeah.
Yeah. And watching it honestly really, really made me excited for the Jungle Cruise to come out with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it's going to have a similar feel and look to it. And
it's got Emily Blunt too, and I love her.
Yeah. So this movie's great. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen it already. That wraps up our Jack Black January. We are coming back next week with cinematographers. We want to see your lists. So please email those to us at podcast@moviesthatmakeus.com. Make sure you follow us on all the social media sites. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. We always appreciate that. And thanks so much for watching and listening. And we won't see you at the movies.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.